Have you ever stopped to think about how temptation manifests itself in our lives? Sometimes it appears subtly, like a gentle voice calling us to the darker side of our choices. Today, we're going to embark on a fascinating journey through the story of Balam, a fallen angel who became the very symbol of deception and seduction. Imagine a being of light, once close to God, who, by his own choice, turns into a force that tests us and lures us into error. What can we learn from this transition? Balam is not just a distant figure, he can reflect the challenges we all face in our daily lives. So what does Balam really have to do with your choices? What lessons could we learn from the temptations that surround us? Stay with me until the end to discover how this enigmatic figure intertwines with the inner battles we all fight. Get ready to explore the hidden side of temptation and how we can protect ourselves from its traps. Let's start exploring the enigmatic figure of Balam, a character who is not just a name in an ancient book, but a powerful representation of spiritual forces that influence our lives. Balam is an intriguing figure, deeply rooted in occult and esoteric traditions. What does his name really mean? He is associated with temptation and deception, which already gives us an indication of his character. To understand Balam better, we need to go back to the biblical story of Balak and Balaam. In this narrative, Balak, a Moabite king, seeks the help of Balaam, a prophet, to curse the people of Israel. This is where the story gets complicated. Balaam, despite being a man of God, is seduced by promises of wealth and power. This relationship between Balak and Balaam establishes a pattern that is reflected in the figure of Balam. Balaam's betrayal of his divine calling, motivated by greed, echoes in the very essence of Balam, who represents the ability to divert others from their sacred paths. But how does Balam turn into a fallen angel? Once, he was an angel of light, a being of purity and purpose. However, by choosing to follow a path of deceit and seduction, he fell from his lofty state, transforming into a force that lures people away from good. This transition is not just a change of state, it is a transformation that resonates with the human experience of making choices that take us away from our values. Balam's fall makes us reflect on our own lives. We all face moments of temptation, where we are called to choose between the right and the easy. Balam's story serves as a warning about the dangers that arise when we follow temptation, ignoring our convictions. This change from an angel of light to a symbol of seduction is more than a simple narrative. It is a powerful lesson about the consequences of our choices. So, when we explore the figure of Balam, we are not only analyzing a spiritual being, but also examining the role that temptation plays in our lives. He confronts us with the reality that even the highest beings can be corrupted, and makes us ask, how far can we go for our ambitions? What are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of power or momentary gratification? Balam, therefore, is not just a distant character, but a reflection of our own internal struggles. By understanding his story, we can begin to recognize the temptations we face on a daily basis and perhaps find the strength to resist them. Over the course of this video, we'll uncover more about Balam and his implications, exploring how this mystical figure can teach us to deal with the seductions of the modern world. We're going to talk about a topic that touches all of us, temptation. But what exactly is temptation? In simple terms, temptation is an impulse or desire that leads us to act in a way that goes against our principles or values. It's like an inner voice that calls us to explore what we know could lead us away from our true selves. This seductive force is represented in the figure of Balam, who becomes a symbol of deception, luring us onto paths that at first glance may seem seductive, but which in reality can lead us astray from our spiritual purpose. How does temptation manifest itself in our daily lives? Think about the small decisions we make every day. From accepting an invitation to a party where we know the atmosphere may be unhealthy, to choosing to ignore someone's needs for the sake of our own personal comfort. Temptation can appear at unexpected moments, disguising itself as brilliant opportunities or immediate pleasures. It often presents itself as an easy solution to our problems, promising instant satisfaction, but often leaving us with an even bigger void. Now, let's look at some concrete examples of how temptation can manifest itself. One of the most common is material desires. We live in a society that values consumption and status. The temptation to acquire goods we don't need can make us lose sight of what really matters in our lives: relationships, health, and spiritual well-being. Have you ever wondered how many times you've bought something that, in the end, didn't bring lasting happiness? This incessant quest for more can be a form of temptation that Balam personifies. Another example is toxic relationships. Sometimes we can be attracted to people who aren't good for us, but who offer a sense of excitement or validation. Balam reminds us that this seduction can lead us away from healthy and constructive relationships, making us lose sight of true love and genuine friendship. How can we resist these temptations when they are so close and seem so tempting? And what about ethical decisions? We are often faced with situations that test our integrity. The temptation to do something we know is wrong in exchange for personal gain, whether in a work environment or in everyday life, is a battle we all face. Balam provokes us to reflect on these choices, challenging us to remain true to our principles, even when the pressure is intense. These examples show us that temptation can take many forms, and the struggle against it is a fundamental part of the human experience. By exploring the nature of temptation, we can better equip ourselves to recognize and resist those forces that lead us away from our true path. What will you do the next time you face temptation? How can you empower yourself to make decisions that reflect your deepest values? These are questions we must ask ourselves as we navigate life's seductions. When we talk about Balam, it's impossible to ignore his presence in occult traditions. He is often invoked by occultists in search of knowledge and power, a quest that may seem tempting at first glance. But at what cost does this quest become? This is where Balam's story turns dark and leads us to reflect on the risks involved. Rituals and practices. The rituals surrounding the invocation of Balam are complex and often involve symbols, chants, and offerings. People believe that by calling on him, they can access deep knowledge, hidden revelations, and even supernatural abilities. However, these rituals do not come without their consequences. The quest for power can easily turn into an obsession, leading practitioners to stray from their values and morality. Imagine an occultist who, in his thirst for power, decides to invoke Balam in a clandestine ritual. Initially, it may seem that he is in control, that he is acquiring unusual wisdom and abilities that make him stand out. However, what many don't realize is that in doing so, they are opening doors to forces they cannot control. This connection can lead to terrifying experiences, loss of control over their lives, and even irreversible consequences for their mental and spiritual health. The stories about those who have tried to connect with Balam are both fascinating and alarming. There are reports of people who, after invoking Balam, began to have disturbing visions and dreams that kept them awake at night. Others talk about a feeling of constant presence, as if a shadow were following them. These experiences may vary, but one thing is certain: those who seek power through Balam often find more than they bargained for. One such story is that of an occultist who, seduced by the promise of powerful revelations, decided to perform an intense ritual on a full moon night. After the invocation, he began to experience a series of inexplicable events, objects moving, whispers in his mind, and a feeling of restlessness that never left him. Over time, he realized that he wasn't just seeking knowledge, but had become a prisoner of his own choices. These stories are a reminder that the quest for power can come with a high price. They teach us that, while Balam can offer knowledge, what we really need is the wisdom to discern what we should pursue. The story of each person who has ventured to invoke Balam invites us to reflect. How far would you go in search of power? And what would be the consequences of your actions? As we explore the occult traditions and practices surrounding Balam, we are led to consider not only what we want, but also what we are willing to sacrifice. This journey leads us to question our own desires and the true nature of power. In our quest for knowledge, are we willing to risk our essence? The answer to this question could be the key to understanding not only Balam, but also ourselves. Let's now delve into an essential topic: how the choices we make, especially those influenced by forces like Balam, can impact our lives in profound and often unexpected ways. It's easy to think that our decisions are simple, but in reality, they can shape not only our present, but also our future. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at a crossroads. On one side is the familiar path, full of values and principles that you have cultivated throughout your life. On the other, a path that shines with promises of pleasure and immediate rewards, seducing you with the idea that this is the shortcut to happiness. How can choices influenced by Balam affect your life? This is the crucial question we must ask ourselves. The traps of temptation can disguise themselves as opportunities, turning decisions that seem harmless into dangerous detours. For example, a simple invitation to a party where we know things could get out of hand may, at first glance, seem like just a bit of fun. But what happens if that decision leads to behavior that negatively affects our health, relationships, or even our career? Balam, as a representation of seduction, makes us confront the consequences of our choices, often showing us that what seems attractive can come at a high cost. Balam's story offers us valuable lessons that go beyond the narrative. It teaches us the importance of discerning between what is tempting and what is truly good for us. In a world where we are bombarded by external influences and social pressures, developing this skill of discernment becomes essential. We need to ask ourselves, does this choice really bring me closer to my purpose? Or does it take me away from who I really am? These learnings are not just intellectual, they touch on emotional and spiritual aspects of our lives. The ability to recognize and resist temptation can empower us to live more authentically and in line with our values. When we are able to make choices that reflect our principles, we not only avoid the pitfalls that Balam represents, but we also cultivate a richer and more meaningful life. As we reflect on these questions, we are invited to think about our own experiences. Which choices have we made in the past that have led us to moments of fulfillment, and which have left us with regrets? Each of us carries stories that can guide us, if we are willing to listen and learn. So, as we navigate the complexities of life, remember that true wisdom lies not just in knowing what to choose, but in understanding the motivations behind our choices. In doing so, we can free ourselves from the negative influence of figures like Balam and embrace a path that leads to authenticity and true purpose. And so we come to the end of our journey through the fascinating and dark story of Balam, a fallen angel who symbolizes the temptations we all face. But before we close, I invite you to reflect. How many times have you been faced with choices that seemed irresistible, but which, deep down, we knew could take us away from who we really are? Balam's story is not just an old tale, it is a mirror that reflects our daily struggles. Each of us has the ability to discern between what is tempting and what is truly valuable. In doing so, we can protect ourselves from the traps that life places in our path and bring us closer to our true purpose. So the next time you're faced with temptation, remember Balam. Ask yourself, does this choice take me closer to my essence, or does it take me off my path? By cultivating this awareness, we can turn challenges into opportunities for growth and self-knowledge. And so we come to the end of our exploration of Balam and the pitfalls of temptation. I hope you've been inspired to reflect on your own choices and the importance of discernment in your life. If you enjoyed this video and want to delve even deeper into topics that arouse curiosity and emotion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. That way, you'll always be the first to know when new fascinating content is released. And if this video has touched you in any way, please leave a like and share your opinions in the comments. I really want to know what you think about Balam and how temptation manifests itself in your life. Don't leave yet. Continue here on the channel and watch the videos that appear on the screen. They're full of insights you won't want to miss. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Your presence here makes all the difference. See you in the next video.